Hello humans! Welcome to or back to my channel. My name is Yelly or Yellbell Beauty here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. I know it's been a while. I don't even know when this video is going up. As I am filming it, it is May 9th. I do want to do like a whole update video of like, where have I been? What have I been doing? I know a lot of you who follow me on Instagram know that I had surgery, so that definitely, I tried to like cram in a lot of content before I went, but once I ran out of content, I ran out of content. So I definitely want to do like a get ready with me while we talk about that. I might film that tomorrow, but today we are going to talk about makeup I am getting rid of. So let me start this off by saying a few things. One, just because I don't like a product or I no longer find use for a product in my collection, it does not mean that you need to get rid of this product, okay? I say this in every video. What serves your collection is up to you, not up to me, okay? We always talk about that. So things that I am decluttering, like, do not feel pressure to declutter. I'm not saying everyone needs to declutter their makeup. I'm just saying I don't find that I'm using these things and they can have a better home. Two, please do not ask me for any of this makeup. Much of it needs to be thrown away. It is old. It is disgusting. You will see at my ColourPop Super Shock Shadows. Anything that is in good shape, if I did not receive it in PR, it is listed on my Mercari. If I am not listing on my Mercari, if it is in good enough condition, it is going to Project Beauty Share. My general rule of thumb, once something is listed on my Mercari for more than 3 months, if it is not purchased, I will take it down and just send it to Project Beauty Share. If you don't know what Project Beauty Share is, you could send them your gently used or brand new makeup and they will then clean it and distribute it to women's shelters. I'll link them down below, but there are like specifics of what you can and can't send that are used. For example, you could send a gently used eyeshadow, but you can't send a mascara that you used or even opened once. I will link that down below. Many of these things, again, will likely wind up going to Project Beauty Share. So let's just talk about the things. To start off, one thing I want to mention that I actually no longer have, I listed it on Mercari and it was bought within 5 minutes. I was like, what? Huh? So I'll pop a picture somewhere on the screen of it, but it was the original Ensley Rain Strawberry Moon palette. Why did I declutter this palette? A few reasons. One, I found that I was not reaching for it as often. Two, the new updated version of the palette I think is a much better version of the palette. It has many more mattes in it. The version of the palette that I decluttered, I think, had like 3 or 4 mattes. It had a pressed glitter. There were 2 hand-pressed multi-chromes, and then I believe the rest were private labeled. I was perfectly fine with it. I thought it was a nice palette. I just didn't find that I was reaching for it enough, and many of the shades in there that I found that I had singles for that were the same or better. So I just felt that it would be, better used by somebody else besides me. That palette, I'll put the price up on the screen, but I want to say I paid like $90 for it, like $89 or $90 for it, and I sold it for $50. So like huge loss, and I probably used it like 10 times or less. It was like so gently used, like it basically looked new. That's a reminder for me that I really need to think before I purchase things based on, all the singles that I have, what is going to best serve my collection, and I need to start being more mindful of that. So that palette was about maybe 1.5 years, 2 years old, and there have been 2 iterations of that palette since then. Ensley Rain did like a lot of revamping, so I don't know if I'm going to buy the new one. I think it is likely that I probably could dupe it if I was really in the mood for it, but right now I just don't really feel the need to. So we're gonna stick with the theme of palettes since we started with that one. So we'll start with my little baby palette here. This is the Unleashia Glitterpedia Peach Aid palette. It's a nice palette. It has some glitters in it, like this is like a chunkier pressed glitter in the middle. The mattes are like a sheer wash. This is Sea Beauty, so like you need to realize this isn't like impactful, bam, wow, whatever. I think that this is a perfectly fine palette. I got this on YesStyle actually with some of my commission. So like technically it was free because all of y'all were purchasing things on YesStyle, and then like I got money back and I could either like use that or cash it out, and I used it to purchase this. I used this like 4 times. I just find that I have other palettes that really, serve this color story, and I'm looking for a little bit more impact. Again, this is Sea Beauty. I didn't expect like a ton of impact, but some of the shades in here, especially with my skin tone, do literally nothing for me. So like if you are not a ghost, unfortunately, I don't think this palette is for you. Like this shade in particular does not show up. This one has like the lightest of pearl sheen, which I can get from so many other shadows. This one barely shows up. So the pink is really like the only impactful matte in here. And I just feel like for a little 9 pan, that's just not enough of a justification to keep it, just because I like the shimmers in here, just because I like one matte. This is not depotable, so I figured this is like best used by another person. I think this next group of palettes is really going to shock a lot of you. I have 3 Odin's Eye palettes here. I know many of you who have followed me for a long time know I used to be a big Odin's Eye collector, and slowly over the years I have dwindled my entire collection down. And the answer is just because I don't use a lot of these palettes. And I'll go through phases, I think, where I'll use some much more than others, and then they just sit there. And then I feel like I have to force myself to use it. So we'll go through each one as to why I'm decluttering it, but pretty much the general idea here with Odin's Eye is that from the very beginning I overbought from this brand, and once I learned my lesson and stopped purchasing, I realized that I wasn't using all of these. First, this is the Salmon 2. It is basically a rainbow palette. Why am I getting rid of this? That is why. Listen, I like a rainbow palette. I do. But with the collection of my size, do you know how many rainbow palettes I have? Do you know how many times I could dupe this over and over and over again with the singles that I have? I mean, it's just a little silly. So it was just the question of all my rainbow palettes, like, which one is the weakest link? And it was this one. I think that the formula in here is fine. It's the normal Odin's Eye formula for the mattes. For the shimmers, some of them for me are hit or miss. I know that like many of you out there are okay with just a satin on your lid. I need something a little bit more impactful. So like some of these shades, like these two, I find to be a little bit more of a satin. This one's like a chunkier one. This one's kind of like a squishy one. So there were like different formulas in here, and I'm fine with that, but I definitely reached for this pink one the most for like that chunky sparkle. Again, mattes were fine, and you know, it has, you know, blue, purple, orange. There's a black here. I think I used the black like once. Again, I have better blacks in my collection, so it just really came down to the fact that if I'm going to reach for a rainbow palette, I'm going to reach for many other rainbow palettes before I reach for this one. This one I think will surprise a lot of you just because of the collection that it's from. So this is Tina the Fancy Faces Legendary Diversa palette, the Hummingbird. I do have the whole like trio from these 3. So the other was Red Dragon by Judy and Giant Wolves by Annette. I actually won these in a giveaway, but I did list this because it was a giveaway and not PR. But the reason that I'm getting rid of this is because this is really, to me personally, a companion palette. It is more shimmer than matte. I know that Tina is like all about that. This is like a very Tina palette. If you don't follow Tina, definitely follow her. She's great. But for me, again, if I'm going to use a shimmer, it's got to be like really impactful. There's got to be something going on. These to me are just shimmers. There's 4 mattes in here. This one's like a satin. I mean, I just have a really hard time making a look out of this without bringing in another palette. And for me, that's like, okay, if I'm going to do something like that, then I'm just going to reach for my singles. I'm not going to reach for this. Out of every palette in my collection, last year, I was tracking them. I used this one the absolute least. I touched it once and I made a look for Instagram with it. I think that if I didn't have a makeup Instagram, I would not have even touched this. So while it is a pretty palette, the formula is fine. I really like Tina. Somebody else out there is going to enjoy this, and it should not just be sitting in a drawer collecting dust at my place. Every video. Last from Odin's Eye, we have the Cat with Golden Carriage from the Saga of Freya. I really like the color story in this, but this is the differentiator I made. I have the Kaleidos Electro Turquoise palette. This is basically a more subdued version of that. I think the reason I held on to this a little bit longer is specifically the shade here. I mean, you could see the dip in that shade. Part of me feels that I'm going to have a very hard time selling this because of that. And also, I don't know if you could see this on camera, but there is seepage around this shade that you sometimes get in those squishier shimmers. I mean, the other shimmers in here are nice, but like that's the one that's like the multi-dimensional, super sparkly, yada, yada, yada. This brown has gold glitter in it. You could look at it. I have never used it. There is not a single brush mark in there. I have basically used the greens, the oranges, and then these 2 shimmers and this shimmer. are like the most that I've used. This one I feel is fine. It just kind of left something for me to be desired. This one's more of like a topper. So again, it's just really not getting a lot of love. And if I'm going to go for something that's orange and turquoise, I'm going to reach for the Kaleidos one over this one because I find that there's so much more versatility for me in that. And again, for me to say I'm keeping this just for this shade right here, I have hundreds and hundreds of eyeshadow singles. That would be ridiculous to keep this. So that is why this will be leaving me. Glamlight. I'm getting rid of my 2 Glamlight palettes. Before any of you are like, is it because of a controversy? No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with how often I reach for these. I think that these have a beautiful formula. The mattes are great. The shimmers in particular, if you are going to give me a shimmer that doesn't have a shift, this is what I want. Sparkle, chunkiness, impact. I love it. But if I am reaching for a nude palette, I have been reaching for one of my Natasha Denona palettes for work. I don't generally do like a really impactful nude look for work. So that is why I haven't been reaching for this one in particular. Again, beautiful palette, great formula, but I just don't use it enough. So it's going somewhere else. I don't even know if I said, this is the chocolate martini from the Happy Hour collection. And then its counterpart, this is the dirty martini from the Happy Hour collection. And I used to be all about a green, but I have not been wearing enough green lately. And after I got surgery, I got a lot of new clothes. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but I'm just gonna put it out there. I got a breast reduction. So for me, I had to get a lot of new clothes, and guess what? Green is not as much of a staple in my wardrobe as it once was. So I just feel that I have a lot of palettes with great greens in them, but I don't necessarily think I need like a fully green palette at this point in my life. Again, shimmers, amazing, mattes, great. I know that some people don't like these palettes. I loved these. I love these so much, but they are not getting use, and it's just not worth keeping them when somebody else out there will use them. This one's like got schmutz on it. This is the Give Me Glow Bad Witch Club. I have 2 Give Me Glow palettes. Well, now I have 1 because I'm decluttering this one. This is like a tale of sad hilarity, but I duped this palette when it first came out, and then I still wanted it so badly that I bought it, and then I barely used it. So I should have just kept the dupe assembled longer, huh? This palette is fine. It's fine. I feel that the shimmers in here are like, meh, they're fine. I've seen Give Me Glow do a much better shimmer than this, specifically in the other palette I have, in the singles that I have. Another like weird thing that happened was this palette was in my drawer untouched for like a year. Like literally a year I did not use it. And I opened the palette to use it, and this purple, the I'm 100% That Witch, was entirely shattered in here. It had just been sitting in my drawer. I had not dropped it. I don't know what impact happened to it, that this shadow just like crumbled to a million pieces. I repressed it, I put it back, and then again, the very next day, it had crumbled again. I was like so close to being like, I'm just going to buy another Give Me Glow shadow and put it in here. And then Give Me Glow was like, we're changing the size of our pans to smaller. And then I started reevaluating like, do I even use this? So I did repress it with alcohol. This is on my Mercari, and I did put that caveat in there that like, this shade is messed up. Like, you could have it, but I just need you to know, like, I don't know how it's gonna perform because I've repressed it 3 times. I try not to use alcohol when I repress, but like, I just didn't have an option with this. I had to repress this one with alcohol or it was just not gonna survive. So, hello, if you purchase this from my Mercari, I would recommend just tossing this shade. I would recommend just tossing the shade. I really considered just taking it out and throwing it away, but like I felt like people don't want to buy an incomplete palette, and I wasn't going to go out and buy a Give Me Glow single to put in here. It just felt a little ridiculous. But yeah, I just never used this, ever. I think the color story is nice. I think it's fun, but again, I have other things like this that I'm going to reach for before this, and this is just also another thing. Give Me Glow palettes, because they're so big, are just not travel friendly to me. So it's never really going to be my first choice. My next 2 are from Aether Beauty. So Aether Beauty has closed down as a brand, and I am very sad about that. I really did enjoy the brand. I enjoyed a lot of things from the brand. And I think that that made it easier to let these go, that the brand doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. So the first one, this is the Rose Quartz palette. I believe this is the revamped one. I think the earlier one has like a red shade somewhere in here. I think it's instead of like this beige shade. This is just all cool toned neutrals. I have other cool toned neutrals, and again, with Natasha Denona palettes, I could like rearrange them, take them out, etc., etc. The format of this palette is like unique, and like I thought that was cool at one point, but I find it a little like now. I do really like the formula. The mattes in here are amazing. The shimmers are hit or miss from Aether Beauty in general. I'm going to reach for another palette over this with the same idea. For example, like I had the ColourPop That's Taupe for a long time. I decluttered that because I had this and I reached for it more. And now I'm decluttering this because I'm reaching for other things more. I don't go for cool tone neutrals very often, but when I do, I just haven't picked this one up. This used to be like a staple to wear to work, and like I just haven't touched it recently. So again, I think someone else could love this more. Again, beautiful palette. And I'm not decluttering it just because the brand closed. I want to clarify, it just makes it easier for me to let it go because the brand closed. If the brand was still open, I might have been like, oh no, but I love them so much. And now it's like this weird parasocial link has been broken for me, and I feel okay letting this go. The other one I have from them is the Amethyst palette. I think this one was supposed to be limited edition, but when the brand closed, they were still selling it. This one is more like pinks, purples, and warm neutrals. And again, like, think of all the pinks and purples. If you look at my palette video, all the pinks and purples that I have. Again, warm neutrals, like how many Natasha Denona palettes do I have? How many Pat McGrath palettes do I have that have like this same exact brown in it, right? So it's just a matter of how much I'm using it. I do think the shimmers in this one are better than the rose quartz one. Personally, I think that this is like a much more elevated formula than the rose quartz one. And then what is the other one? Like the Moonlight palette, it was like green and purple. I let that one go a while ago. I just reach for other green and purple things. But yeah, part of me is sad to see it go, but again, I've been tracking how much I've been using things and I have not reached for this. And even when I consciously am like, ooh, I haven't used that in a while, I'm still not reaching for it. So I'm gonna give it to someone who will reach for it. It's time. My last two absolutely disgusting Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. I was really telling myself I was going to get a pan in every shade in one of these, and then the other day I reached for the Soft Glam, which this is actually, I believe, I would say newer of the two, but not really. Obviously, they're both old. And the shadows were not performing like they used to. So this is the Soft Glam. I have a lot of pans in here. I mean, this is a complete pan, 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 pan. I think I was like pretty close in bronze. So yeah, I panned a lot of this and I loved this palette while I did. I have differing opinions about Anastasia Beverly Hills these days, but the formula, if I take out like the people in it, the formula, at least back then, was objectively good. When did I get this palette? I was in college. For reference, I graduated from college in 2019 and I went to a 5-year college. So I probably got this in 2016. And it's 2024, so it's had a long life. This was like an everyday palette for me. I used to also be an Anastasia collector, and after I did like a big declutter, these were the two that like stood the test of time, and now they're not because they've clearly gone off. And you could see how, you know, well loved this is, and don't be like, ew, you're disgusting, you never clean your makeup. Anyone out there who has this Velvet Touch packaging, once you get something on it, it does not come off. See that? Nothing. It doesn't come off. I've tried alcohol, I've tried Clorox wipes, like I just gave up, okay? I just gave up. It was not worth trying to save it because the makeup on the inside still worked. But now this is going in the garbage. It just has to. It's like a decade old. It's disgusting. And here's the Norvina palette. Same as all, you know, the other thoughts, but here we are. So again, I almost fully panned the shade Base, and then as I look in it right now, there's like something in that pan, right? That's got something gross in it. So glad I'm throwing these away. Pan, 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 pan. So again, I did pretty well with these, and I wasn't even like trying. These were just eyeshadow palettes that I owned for a long time and used consistently. I always said in this palette I was never gonna pan Soul and Celestial. I thought that they're both like the ugliest shades on the eye. Soul looks like a horrible like gray, and Celestial is like a weird grape that doesn't match anything else in this palette because they decided to make the only other purple gray. Anyway, Same thoughts as the other one. I thought that this was great while it lasted, but it is unfortunately going in the garbage. It had a long, nicely lived life. And as you can see, this one is also very disgusting. Last for the palettes, this is my Huda Beauty New Nude. This is also a fairly old palette. When did I get this? I think I got this sophomore year of college. So it, again, lasted very long. I think I got it for my birthday from my mom or something. I like really wanted it. It was like, I was a broke college student, but I think this was like $56. And I was like, oh my God, who has $56? Wow. Wow, college me should know how many Pat McGrath palettes I own. There are a few pans in here. This one has like a little baby pan. This was like that concealer shade, which I scraped it out because it got like covered in powder and I never used it. Here's one. I never was able to pan the shimmers in here, which is very interesting because this one in particular I used so much, and every time I used it, I'm like, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. But again, I recently used this and I haven't noticed the difference in the shimmers, but the mattes in particular weren't as pigmented or like friendly as they used to be, so it's just time for this to go. I never even touched the glitters in here. Also, you can see those are like, that one looks like I might have put my finger in it once, but that one's like brand new. So that is going in the garbage. Okay, now we're moving into base products. So one, this is the Hamish BB cream. I was actually gifted this by the brand. They gifted me the whole range, which I think it was like 6 shades. The range is not very shade inclusive. If I did a whole review on Instagram if you wanted my opinion. The product itself I thought was beautiful. Why am I getting rid of this when it's only like half complete? I'll tell you why. I went to use it the other day. It smells like melted crayons. It used to smell like flowers, so I just don't feel that it's good anymore, which is very interesting. Like, I don't keep it in the sun. I don't keep it anywhere like super humid. I keep it in a drawer. I would have to look back to when I got this, but I don't even know if I got this a year ago when I got this PR. I'll like pop on the screen when I got this. And then again, today's May 9th, 2024. So I don't know if there's like no preservatives in here or like something, but it smells rancid. So it's just going in the garbage, unfortunately. Again, while I had it, I thought it was a beautiful product. I had several base products I was working through, so I just didn't reach for this every single day, but I wore this a lot. Like, I got through a good amount of it. I would have finished it, but it's gross, so it's going in the trash. This one should not be a surprise to any of you. So, fun fact, I'll pop their comment on the screen, but in my Project Pan video, one of you asked me, if you hate that powder so much, why are you panning it? And I was like, because I don't want to waste it. And then I got 2 powders to test out for my wedding because I'm getting married, and as of today, it's 2 weeks away. Terrifying. I have nightmare dreams that I keep forgetting to bring my wedding dress to the venue. That's a whole other subject. But I started using the 2 other powders and I was like, oh my God, I forgot what it was like to use a powder that I like. There isn't a ton left in here. I feel like that looks like a lot more than it is. I don't know how many uses that is, but obviously I can't give this to somebody. Like, there's like almost no product left and it sucks. I mean, I would probably just like give it to my worst enemy. I know so many people love this powder. I just don't understand like why it doesn't work for me, but no matter where I put it, my face crepes. I am 28 years old. I don't have like excessive deepening of lines or anything like that. And if you have that, that's like perfectly fine. But all I'm saying is like, I don't know what this is seeping into. Like, I don't have intense smile lines. I don't have crow's feet. I don't have like intense indentations under my eyes. I don't have like lines right here on my chin. And like, once I put this on, I do. I don't understand it. So I'm just going to toss this. And as I was using the other powders and then I looked at this one and I was like, oh, I have to use it. Like, at that user, again, your comments on the screen, your comment like really echoed through my head and resonated with me. So I actually really, really appreciate you asking me that question, because that is what it took for me to just get rid of this. Okay, we're taking a little tour back to the eye products. I don't know why I did this in the order that I did this. So these are my last category for today, and that is potted shadows. We'll just say that. So I have 5 Super Shock shadows here. We'll look at each of them separately, but why am I getting rid of these? 2 reasons. 1, these are all old. I remember specifically, I bought all of these when this collection, this sunflower collection, launched. Guess what? I was a senior in college. That was in 2018 or 2019. That's gross. These are a cream product. These are old. The other is just that when I am going to do like a one and done look, I'm always reaching for my Phytosurgeons or one of the Oolak shadows, which we'll talk about in a minute, or even just like a single or a shade from a palette. And I went through the other day and I swatched every single Super Shock shadow that I have. And then I went through my singles and I have at least 2 dupes for every single one of these. So it's just not even worth like being like, and I'll go out and buy a new one because I have to get rid of them because they're so old. Like they're just going, they're all going in the garbage. So the first one that I have is In Harmony. This is from that Sunflower collection. And it's just a gold. Like, think of all the golds that maybe like a person who isn't like a makeup like obsessed person has in their collection. If they own maybe like 2 or 3 eyeshadow palettes, I bet one of them has a gold. Why did I have this? I don't know, because it like came in a set with the other one. I apparently liked it enough to hit pan in it, but hitting pan in a Super Shock shadow is like kind of cheating. They're like super easy. But I also just, if I'm going for a gold, I'm not going for like a stark yellow gold like this as much. So I like haven't even reached for this in a very long time. This one I'm kind of sad about. This is also from that collection. This one is called Flower Child, and you could see that this one has a lot of use. And it still feels like squishy and like normal, like a Super Shock shadow. 2 things. So like this is like my type of one and done shadow. So first of all, it smells a little odd. And I don't think Super Shock shadows are supposed to have a scent at all. At all. 2, super old. 3, like while I like really love this as a one and done, I was able to find multiple dupes just from Divina. I like stopped looking after Divina just from Divina. I had versions of this. So I didn't even check any of my eyeshadow palettes to be like, yeah, and I have that. I didn't even check any other brands of single. And I had multiple from Divina that were like this, similar to this, and better. So for me, like while I really enjoyed this, I'm just not at a time in my life where I need something like this and being like, oh, and I'm going to take it with me and it's a one and done. Like I have Phytosurgeon shadows that are like that. I have the Oolak shadows, and again, if I really want this effect, I'll just pull out one of those Divina shadows. This one is the shade Chirp. It's like a coral. You'll notice I think all of these have a pan in them. This one is like a really baby one. This one I wouldn't really describe as a shimmer. I would almost describe this as like a matte with glitter particles in it. So I never really reached for it that often, but this one in particular actually is dried out. Like to the touch, it feels like chalk. So regardless of if I wasn't getting rid of all of my Super Shock shadows, this one would have to go in the garbage. So this is Moon Daisy. It is like a purpley blue. This one actually still feels fine. It smells like old crayons, so again, old, disgusting, but I really enjoyed this one. Actually, I would even wear this like just as an inner corner, but again, I have highlighters that look like this, I have single eyeshadows that look like this, I have eyeshadows and palettes that look like this, and it smells rancid, so goodbye. And this was my last Super Shock shadow. It's in the shade Fruit Punch. I honestly don't know why I held on to this as long as I did, because it's just like a lime green. I know I have multiple lime green singles, and not just that, I know that I have a lime green from ColourPop in a palette that looks just like this. Like, what? This one actually smells okay. Again, I dug my grubby fingers in there. It's super old. It still looks creamy, but like, again, I don't know. I guess the other question is like, what preservatives is ColourPop putting in their makeup that they are good for like 10 years? And then Hamish is like, our BB cream goes bad in 6 months. Like, what is going on? Should I be worried of how long this lasted? My last two products here are from Ulok. These are actually both from PR. Ulok sent me several cream eyeshadows, and these are two that I just don't reach for color-wise. Actually love their cream eyeshadows. I've been using them so much. I would like to get more shades, but I kept telling myself, like, you have ones that you don't even use, Yelly. So we'll talk about the ones that I don't use. I have not purchased any more shades from them, but if I was going to, you know, I would not buy these ones just because of the shades for me. So I really, really want their like light blue one and the like purple one. But yeah, again, anyway, this formula is beautiful. So thank you to Ulok for sending these to me. I would have never even tried their makeup if they hadn't reached out. And some things were hits and some things were misses. Like if you go on my Instagram, you'll know that I did not like their lipsticks very much. But again, eye products were a total hit. So this is the shade Regal. It is like a bronze. This one in particular, I think I'm going to give to my sister-in-law. She has red hair and green eyes, so she's like all about the bronze. Bronze for me just doesn't look very impactful with my skin tone, so I just really don't reach for it. Like anything that you see in here, that was from like when I did eye swatches for Instagram, and then I haven't touched it since. Like I don't own the Natasha Denona bronze palette. Like I don't go seeking out bronze eyeshadows, but like, you know, they sent me this, so I tested it. The formula is fine. The color's just not for me. This one is Total Eclipse. Looking in the pan originally, and like looking in the viewfinder, this looks like a gray, but like looking in the pan of it, it looks like a very deep blue, but like on the eye, it's basically just a black or like a deep gray with sparkles in it. I told myself, oh, I could use it as like a fun eyeliner, but honestly, I have not touched it since I swatched it, and like I could just put the Fenty Diamond Balm on top of a regular eyeliner. So again, these will be donated because they were gifted to me, or like, again, this one will probably go to my sister-in-law, but this is like a very intense one. I don't know if I know someone like super young that might go clubbing. That's like where I'd recommend this. I'm certainly not there. But again, beautiful formula. Those were just the shades that were not for me. So thank you all so much for being here with me today. If you like this content, give it a thumbs up and let me know down below that you want to see more of what I am decluttering from my makeup collection in the future. I am telling myself that the year of 2024, I need to go through my lip products more often, because at the beginning of this year I did a little lip declutter and man, it was very well needed. So let me know down below if you want to see more of that. I'm very excited to be back with all of you, and keep your eye out for some additional content coming up. I'm going to be going on my honeymoon soon, so I want to do a little video packing for that. Again, I want to do a get ready with me, talk about my breast reduction. There are so many things I like want to do. There's just a finite amount of time in my life right now, so please bear with me. But I really appreciate you all being here with me today, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay weird. Bye!